if you want to multiply your begonias, the only way you can do this is by taking cuttings. That can be done two ways. That can be done by taking a cutting off of the tuber when they first shoot up, and there's several on here. There's 5 on there, so we only want to leave 2 for flowering. So if you look in here, you can see this one is buried a little bit, and that one we'll try to just gently wobble him backwards and forwards and lift him off and take the stipules off. And then this leaf is a little bit large, and we'll drain the cutting a little bit, so we trim that back to roughly a 2-inch square or 50 centimetre square, 50 millimetres. I'm not too sure. But see, there you have a cutting ready to be, almost ready to be planted. There's another cutting on this plant that's exposed at the base of it, so that can be cut off there. What we're using here is a doctor's scalpel. That's an excellent tool for it, but if you haven't, just use a small, very sharp knife. And that one I'll trim a little bit too. Take these little wings off. There we have two cuttings ready to go to the next stage. That's the ones from the tuber when they first start growing. This one is a what we call a lateral cutting, and if you can zoom in here, you can see at the base of that cutting there is a little bud. I'll cut that out. There we see at the base of the cutting there is a little bud. Now it relies on that embryo bud to strike the next year. Otherwise it will be like a blind potato with no eyes. You'll get a tuber but nowhere for it to grow. Now that has far too many leaves, so we'll cut those 2 off and just trim that one a little. We'll leave him over there, separate from the other 2. Now they really should be named. We'll get name tags and write down names. Now what I do now is I use liquid worm feed, and I use that at the rate of 10 mils to a litre. I've got 3 litres in there, so I put 30 mils of juice in there and mix it around a little bit. Now the cuttings are placed in that for a couple of minutes. It doesn't matter if it's longer, that's no problem at all. This tends to help ward off diseases, fungus diseases, and helps protect them until they strike root. With our cutting medium, this is a mixture of pine bark and coarse sand. And what I've done over the last few years is to water it fairly well, And I'll mix that up. You can see that's quite damp. It's damp, quite wet, but not wet enough to wring the water out of it. Now we take those two out and let them drain a little, and then we'll put this one in to soak for a while. Now that the cuttings have had a little bit of time to dry, we'll dip them in Clonex. I use the purple Clonex gel, and even that I've watered down to 50% Clonex and 50% rainwater. I'll just put a little bit of that into this cap. And just dip the end of the cutting in there and shake the excess off. Now we'll take a tube, or two tubes, and we'll fill them with this damp cutting mix. And give it a hole. I'll put them down the side and then gently firm them in. And put their labels in. Now what I've found lately, what I've started to do is to use a storage container, and this makes an excellent little propagator. And just normally I have a full tray, but I'll just put them in here and put them there. And what I do, I use spray them with a fungicide. I use Iopon Aquaflow, but if you're only doing a few, that's far too expensive, so just let the worm juice do, but I spray them with this. And then cover them. And if you've got a warm, shady spot to put that, would be ideal. The reason for using Aquaflow and soaking them in the worm juice is to prevent the cuttings damping off or going rotten. Some people, once they've got their cuttings in a small pot, and they just place them in the shade of their plants wherever they're growing, and that seems to work quite well too. This is a tray of cuttings that have been in there for about 3 or 4 weeks, and we just tap one out and you can see the roots around the bottom of there, so that's well on the way. Because the cuttings have been planted into wet compost, they won't need watering in, and in a container like this, they probably won't dry for pretty well a week or even more. So don't water them until they show signs of dryness. The reason for this DVD and the information on it is to help you grow begonias more successfully, and I hope they give you a lot of pleasure in the years to come. Thank you.